Hello humans, welcome to part 3. So here we are, and as you can recall, we messed around with a glass sample. We pulled in this lovely piece of MIDI. We listened to it. We added some effects, so on. Right, what we're going to look at today is the use of our arpeggiators and so much more. And we're going to get creative with some automation. First thing I've done is I just grabbed any old sort of 4 bars of this lovely piece of music, and then I pressed Command E, right, which has chopped it like so. Okay, I'm using plus and minus here to zoom in and out. Okay, I grabbed that bit and threw it over here into a new section, and then look, if you right click you can see that you can consolidate it. New piece of MIDI, Command J. So I did that here with this little bit right here. So let's have a quick listen to this. Yeah, so it's just 4 bars of Bach, right? I quantized it, so it's just on the grid, and I've added in a couple of notes, and we've got this kind of suspended sus4 resolution. So now look, I tweaked the effects a bit. I've added an OTT and some chorus. So consider this. If I press A, it reveals the automation lane. And you can see that some of the parameters on some of these plugins have got little red dots there. That means they've been automated. So look, if I click on that parameter, that chorus wet dry, lo and behold, there it is. Okay, and you can see that all I've done really is just, you know, add a bit and take a bit away. Okay, so let's click on the saturator. Look, kind of done the opposite, right? I've backed off on this saturation depth and then increased it again. No, not too much thought has gone into this, to be honest. Click on the delay time, and you can see that delay left there kind of anchored together. Okay, you can just see that the delay time is slightly increasing as it works through the 4 bars. Okay, and then look here, the sample start time, a very, very subtle, very tiny little increase just to change the timbre as it works through 4 bars. So I can click this little add button here, like so, right? And if I click on each parameter, I can kind of add them in and have them all showing at the same time, down and down through the arrange window. Okay, you don't need to do that as such. I'm just showing you that that's there. So let's have a listen. You can hear the difference it makes if I turn off the OTT. Okay, so that's all well and good. So what I'm going to do now is press Command T, which gives us a new audio track right there. And I'm going to change that to resampling like we did before in the first video. Okay, as you know, this channel will now record whatever it hears. Here we go. Hit record. Great, okay. So for now I'm done with this channel. So I'm going to turn that off and just kind of hide it. Just resize the window like so. Let's press A. I'll turn the loop function back on. I pressed Command L to just turn that back on. Okay, all we're doing now is listening to this 4-bar loop. As it happens, by the way, look, I'm running at 140 BPM. Okay, great. So much like before, let's add in a simpler now here. Okay, and let's throw this entire 4-bar loop into that simpler. Okay, and now we're done with that channel. So much like before, you can probably remember Shift Command M builds me a piece of MIDI. Okay, I'm going to just double click there on C3, right, and then press legato. That will just fill up the whole 4 bars at the right pitch. Here we go. Okay, remember we looked at the amplitude envelope, the pitch. Okay, so let's now start thinking beyond. So look, I'm going to right click on here. Look, it says group. Okay, I'm going to create this, what we call instrument rack now. Okay, so this sampler is now sitting inside this instrument rack. And the instrument rack, as you can see, I'm clicking these little buttons to reveal various parameters. I can start assigning different things to these 8 macros. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to click on our sample start time. If I right click, look, map to macro 1. There you go. You see that there? So as I tweak macro 1, that has been assigned to, that has received an assignment from the sample start. Okay, great. Right, let's keep going. So under controls, I'm going to assign under pitch here, this pitch amount to macro 2. So look, as I increase this, you can see it increasing here. There's a little green dot there now. And look, there's a little green dot there. So we can see what's been macroed. If I just double click on that, it returns it to 0 semitones. Okay, I'm going to choose the pitch decay to assign that to macro 3 and this transpose to macro 4. Okay. So as you can probably recall, I'm just kind of tweaking this, right, to get that little punchy bit at the start every time the sample is triggered. I make the decay time longer. You can hear it. It's now taking 1.5 seconds to go from 48 semitones down to no semitones, right? So listen again. So if we pull back, we can set that to just a nice amount so it's barely discernible. It has use, it has purpose, we'll see later. So there's a few weird and wonderful things I could do, right? I could, for example, see I'm just copying out one for each bar. So we could, you know, automate the sample start time now. So I can just click here. I clicked on that macro. It reveals it in our automation lane. Okay, as you can see, I could just really quickly kind of, I could fire off pieces of MIDI and the sample start time can be different every time. Okay, that's quite a useful thing to consider. Let's go with that and just kind of extend it out so it's nearly filling each bar. That'll do. And you can hear every time the piece of MIDI is triggered, you get that kind of because of these two settings here. So look, there's the transpose. As you see, I've clicked on the transpose macro. Instantly that automation lane appears. So we could do some weird stuff. Get the idea? So I'm just hitting Command Z there to undo. Set that back to 0. So the next thing to consider, if we listen, every time the piece of MIDI ends, the envelope, the release time is very short. So here on the pitch envelope, I'm going to assign the ADSR to macros 5, 6, 7 and 8. Attack, decay, yep, sustain, release. So when the note stops, it fades now because of the release time. If we have a slow attack, yeah, we have total control over the envelope now. Okay, interesting. So hopefully you can kind of get a sense here of assigning key parameters within the simpler, yeah, to the macros. Little filter section down here. I'm not going to use that. I could turn that off. LFO section, turn that off. Sample start time. Notice I just hit re-enable automation to, you know, kind of bring that back to life. Okay, so you can just see that hopefully what I'm doing with the sample start here is just having on each beat 1, yeah, it's starting somewhere. Okay, if you notice, look, as I move my pointer now to near the automation lane I've kind of dialed in, when you get a blue line you can just pull it down like so. Let's now start going crazy. Now we're going to introduce an arpeggiator. So look, MIDI effect, okay, arpeggiator. Let's throw this in at the start. Okay, interesting. So think about what this arpeggiator is doing. This is where stuff starts to get fun, we hope. So it's set to a rate of 8th notes. Okay, and the gate time is how much of each 8th we're going to here. So with a very low gate time, it's barely a click. Yeah, if we put it on 100% or 200%, so we can have a discernible gap between each eighth note, or we can kind of fill that with a continuation of the sample, like so. And you can see as I click on rate here and gate, we have the automation lanes. So listen. Why don't we do some fun stuff? Okay, so I'm going to go back into here and just legato that one piece of MIDI. Notice crucially now, look, that the sample start time is still making the sample trigger at these kind of arbitrary places throughout. Jumps to here, jumps back down to there. Okay, so I could refine that. I could hold down shift and kind of get the sweet spot that I want. You see it moving? I could kind of decide to have it on a transient. Okay, what's this third? Where's this third one? It's kind of in a just before a transient, right? So I'm going to hold down shift and just move that up a little bit. See that? There you go. Back to the arpeggiator rate time. Why don't we try and make a funky kind of rhythmic pattern automating this rate? So what I mean to say is if we kind of dial in, so it's jumping from 16ths to 32ths. Yeah, you hear that? And then same again at the end of the last bar. Let's just go to 24ths, which as it were is triplets. Just turn the click on for a point of reference. What about if we kind of draw in a slowly increasing gate time? So I'm just trying to get myself a little box there. So that's kind of like an eighth, right? It's not a 16th, it's an eighth. So what would happen if I copy that much and then put it, put another one, say here, leaving 2 eighths in between, 1, 2, another one here. What do we get? So now I could just copy that whole bar, duplicate that, Command D, 3 times across all 4 bars. So it's kind of a cool groove, right? Okay, I'm going to undo and just introduce you to a new little kind of fun thing we can do with automation. You see these little dots here? We can stretch this envelope or envelope that we've drawn. So look, I can pull it up, pull that side down. So listen now. Okay, it's just, you know, making it open each time. Let's now duplicate that, Command D. Here we go.
Interesting.
Now you might say, okay, well the gate time overall is a bit short, so we could kind of increase the entire thing like so. So now back to the transpose. We could give it a try. Let's just see how that's going to feel. We could go up like a 10 semitones. You know, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. Undo, undo, undo. 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I just undid each node. Let's keep going with how to think about what we're doing here. So we've got an instrument rack and we've got an arpeggiator telling this simpler what to do. Awesome. Right, let's add in some effects. Right, let's keep going. So what about if we added in some reverb? So I'm going to drag this into here. Notice the blue line, it's either inside the instrument rack or outside of it. I'm going to put it inside. Now that sounds pretty horrible, but here's a thought. If we go to the gate lane, copy, so I'm pressing Command C, and then look, I'm tweaking the mix, which reveals it here. See that? Let's paste in that automation And now the Valhalla, look, mix time is obeying the automation. Yeah, so we're using the automation as our piece of rhythm, our syncopation for the song we're composing, right? You know, maybe we like it, maybe we don't, maybe we back off a bit. Great, what else can we do? So many things, right? So let's think about adding in Corpus. Okay, this is a rather weird creature. This allows us to treat the audio as if it's kind of coming through a tube or a membrane, like a drum skin. I'm going to put this on full. Very strange. You can really hear the extreme settings. By default there it's set to 261.63, which is actually C. So I'm somewhat arbitrarily just kind of tweaking, right? What does this dial do, is my thought. Now you can remember here, bottom left, it gives you a sense of what each parameter does. So as I hang over this, if you read bottom left, it says adjusts the variation of the damping at different frequencies, so on and so on, right? So look, with just 4%, you can just hear that. What a crazy thing. What else could we do? We could use a resonator somewhere in here. Okay, again, put it inside the instrument rack. If I close this, double click there, I've kind of folded and closed that instrument rack down. Everything we've done here is inside this one instrument rack. The resonator is awesome. It can be awesome. Let's just kind of hear that in action. I'm just going to turn each of these resonators off. Here's the first one. It's set to C2. See how I can change the pitch? So what would happen if I put that on E2? So hopefully you realise that that's, as it were, a major third, right? Let's turn on this one and put this on, well, 10 semitones. You can hear that that's that good old flat 7, right? Turn on the one next door, you can hear how they're panning left and right. So I could put that one on, who's to say? That's like a suspended fourth. There you go, major third. Yep, so I could be automating each of those and having that going from, you know, the perfect fourth down to the major third. That's an interesting thought. I could add good old saturator and just, you know, drive this somewhat. We could put a limiter outside of the instrument rack here, just so we know it's not going to clip. Okay, just giving it a ceiling. So think about what's going on here. Let's take stock for a moment. Kind of tons of stuff all inside this instrument rack. Okay, and lots of ability to automate. Of course, if I come back to the attack and kind of slow it down, that front end. Hopefully you can remember what that parameter was doing. The decay time of the 4-octave. Huge fast descent pitch-wise. So it just kind of toughens up the front end. Good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to just open these out. I've thrown in a quick drum pattern here. Let's just turn these on. Kick, snare, hi-hat. Okay, it's very cheesy. I do apologise. But the idea here is just to give yourselves a sense of So obviously now with a kind of context, some drums going on, which themselves could be, tidied up. That hi-hat there's way too loud. You can now play a game of numbers and values and parameters. I'm going to solo this channel. So, you like stuff, you don't like stuff, you back it off. Yeah, you turn it off entirely. You could automate that, slowly fading in. And don't forget, all the while, what we could be doing here is using this little plus and keeping our eye on the automation that we have done. Because obviously the more you automate, the more changes you've got to make as you reverse engineer. And we've decided that this automation lane is giving us a rhythm. We could copy that onto the wet and dry. Let's just do that, in fact. So I'm going to grab this copy. Let's put it on, interesting, the wet and dry lane. Is that going to sound good? Now that reverb, again, I'm just thinking in the moment now, this reverb's annoying me a bit. I'm going to turn the decay time down. Look. So you get the idea. Let's go crazy with the wave shaper. Could be ugly. The upshot of what I've created here and now in this moment, it's okay. There's much tweaking and refining to be done, but hopefully you get the idea. The spirit of this module, the idea here is to create. Here I am with my palette of sound color, just thinking about how to kind of make some interesting funky sounds. We've gone from that to, what you're hearing now. So this is, bottom-up composition, right? Not the drums, but the glass. I recorded a glass in a room. I've ended up with this arpeggiated entity. So yeah, I hope that's been interesting and useful. Tune in for some more, and see you very soon.
You're with music.